Our journey begins over 2 million years ago with our earliest ancestors. These early humans lived in small groups, foraging for food and hunting animals. They used simple tools made of stone and bone, but what set them apart from other species was their ability to learn, adapt, and cooperate. Over time, they spread out from Africa into different regions of the world, adjusting to new environments. This was a time of survival, but it was also the beginning of culture. Early humans developed language, shared knowledge, and passed down skills from one generation to the next. The discovery of fire was a turning point. It provided warmth, protection, and the ability to cook food, which led to healthier, stronger humans. Fire also became a social tool. Early humans gathered around it, sharing stories and forming bonds that strengthened their communities. Though life was harsh, these early humans laid the groundwork for what was to come. The seeds of civilization had been planted. They became more adaptable, and their innovations would create a domino effect, propelling future generations toward greater achievements. Yet, they were far from the towering cities and complex societies we know today. The early stages of humanity focused on basic survival, but through cooperation and the passing of knowledge, the journey towards civilization had officially begun. The agricultural revolution. Visual. Early farmers planting crops and domesticating animals. Around 10,000 years ago, a monumental shift occurred. The agricultural revolution. For the first time, humans stopped wandering in search of food and settled down. They began to cultivate crops and domesticate animals, which provided a stable food supply. This shift allowed for the growth of permanent settlements, and with it came the first villages. It happened in places like the Fertile Crescent, a rich, productive land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, but it also occurred independently in other parts of the world. Agriculture didn't just change how humans fed themselves. It transformed every aspect of their lives. It allowed for population growth, which led to more complex social structures. As people lived closer together, they needed rules and systems to manage their communities. Specialized roles developed. Some became farmers, others artisans, and some became leaders. Agriculture also facilitated the development of technology, as humans learned to manage irrigation systems and build tools for farming. The stability agriculture provided laid the foundation for the rise of cities and eventually civilizations. In the grand scope of human history, this revolution was one of the most profound turning points. It turned humans from nomads into settlers, leading to societies that would change the world forever. The rise of civilizations. Visual. Ancient cities with towering structures like pyramids and ziggurats. With the agricultural revolution came the rise of the first great civilizations. Around 5,000 years ago, in places like Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and China, humans began building cities. These early civilizations developed writing systems, established laws, and created complex social hierarchies. Mesopotamia, often called the cradle of civilization, was home to the Sumerians, who developed one of the first writing systems, cuneiform. In Egypt, the powerful pharaohs ruled over vast stretches of land, building monumental pyramids as tombs for their afterlife. The Indus Valley civilization, with its carefully planned cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, showed early signs of urban planning and sanitation. Meanwhile, in China, the Yellow River Valley gave rise to dynasties that would last thousands of years. These early civilizations were driven by a desire to control their environment and leave a lasting legacy. They built temples, palaces, and complex irrigation systems to sustain their growing populations. Civilization was now well underway, and each new discovery or invention pushed humanity further down the path of progress. Human ambition was beginning to shape the physical and cultural landscape of the world. The Bronze Age and trade. Visual. Merchants trading goods along ancient trade routes like the Silk Road. As cities grew, so did the need for resources. The Bronze Age, starting around 3000 BCE, saw the development of advanced metalworking. Humans began to mix copper with tin to create bronze, a stronger and more durable metal that was used to make weapons, tools, and armor. This technological leap gave rise to powerful kingdoms and empires, and with it, long-distance trade networks. The Silk Road became one of the earliest and most important trade routes, connecting civilizations from China to the Mediterranean. Goods like silk, spices, and precious metals were exchanged. But it wasn't just material items that were traded. Ideas, religion, and culture traveled along these routes as well. The world was becoming more interconnected, and the foundation for global trade was being laid. Trade networks allowed civilizations to flourish by accessing resources that were not available locally. In turn, this exchange of goods brought wealth and power to cities, fueling expansion and innovation. The interconnectedness of the ancient world during this time laid the groundwork for globalization as we know it today. The Iron Age and empires. Visual. Armies marching and empires expanding, like the Assyrian and Persian empires. The Iron Age, starting around 1200 BCE, brought new advancements. Iron was stronger than bronze and more abundant, leading to improved tools and weapons. With these new technologies, empires expanded their territories. The Assyrian Empire, known for its brutal military tactics, dominated much of the Near East. Meanwhile, the Persian Empire, under leaders like Cyrus the Great, created one of the largest empires in history, stretching from India to Egypt. These empires were built on conquest, but they also brought people together under centralized governments. Roads, communication systems, and legal codes were developed to manage vast territories. The Persian Royal Road, for example, allowed for quick communication across the empire, while the Code of Hammurabi in Babylon set early standards for justice. These empires set the stage for even larger political entities that would emerge in the centuries to come. The desire for expansion and control, combined with improved technology, drove the rise of larger, more organized societies. Their legacy lives on in the structures, laws, and cultures that continue to influence the modern world. The Classical Era, beginning around 500 BCE, saw the rise of two of the most influential civilizations in history, ancient Greece and Rome. In Greece, city-states like Athens and Sparta dominated the landscape. Athens became a center for philosophy, art, and democracy. Thinkers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle laid the intellectual foundation for Western thought, asking fundamental questions about ethics, politics, and the nature of reality. Meanwhile, in Rome, a small republic was growing into a vast empire. Rome borrowed heavily from Greek culture, but added its own innovations in law, engineering, and military organization. The Romans built roads, aqueducts, and monumental buildings, many of which still stand today. Their legal systems, such as the 12 Tables, laid the groundwork for modern jurisprudence. At its height, the Roman Empire controlled much of Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. Roman legions marched across the known world, spreading Roman culture, language, and governance. Yet, Rome's success also sowed the seeds of its downfall. The empire grew so large that it became difficult to manage, and internal strife, economic instability, and barbarian invasions eventually led to the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 CE. Despite its collapse, the legacy of both Greece and Rome shaped the future of Western civilization, influencing modern governments, philosophies, and architecture. The fall of Rome and the Dark Ages. In 476 CE, the Western Roman Empire fell, marking the beginning of what is often called the Dark Ages in Europe. Without the unifying force of Rome, Europe fragmented into smaller feudal kingdoms. This period was characterized by a decline in urbanization, literacy, and technological innovation. For centuries, much of the classical knowledge was preserved only in monasteries, where monks copied ancient texts by hand. Feudalism became the dominant social system, where land was exchanged for military service. Lords controlled large estates, and peasants, or serfs, worked the land in exchange for protection. The church also became a central figure in medieval life, both spiritually and politically. In the absence of strong centralized governments, the church provided a sense of continuity and order. However, this era was not entirely dark. While Europe struggled, the Byzantine Empire in the East preserved much of Roman culture, and the Islamic world flourished. Even in Europe, advancements in agriculture such as the three-field system allowed for population growth. Viking raids from the north also forced European societies to develop better defenses, contributing to the eventual rise of kingdoms and cities that would lead Europe out of the Dark Ages. The Islamic Golden Age. While Europe was in decline, the Islamic world was entering a golden age of science, culture, and intellectual growth. From the 8th to the 13th centuries, cities like Baghdad, Cordoba, and Damascus became centers of learning and innovation. Scholars in the Islamic world preserved and translated ancient Greek, Roman, Persian, and Indian texts, ensuring that the knowledge of earlier civilizations was not lost. The House of Wisdom in Baghdad, founded during the Abbasid Caliphate, was a hub for scholars from different cultures and religions to exchange ideas. Fields like mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy flourished during this period. Al-Khwarizmi developed algebra, and Ibn Sina, Avicenna, wrote influential medical texts that would be used in Europe for centuries. This period also saw advancements in technology, such as improvements in navigation and the invention of early surgical tools. Islamic architecture, known for its intricate designs and large domes, flourished across the empire. The Islamic Golden Age wasn't just a continuation of ancient knowledge. It was a period of immense innovation that laid the groundwork for the Renaissance and the eventual rise of modern science. The medieval world. By the 11th century, Europe was beginning to emerge from the Dark Ages. The medieval period saw the rise of feudalism, a system in which lords controlled large estates, and peasants worked the land in exchange for protection. Castles dotted the landscape, and knights became the military elite. The invention of the heavy plow and advancements in agricultural techniques led to a surplus of food, enabling population growth and the revival of towns and cities. The Catholic Church played a central role in medieval life. Monasteries and cathedrals became centers of learning, and the clergy held significant political power. In 1095, Pope Urban II called for the First Crusade, a series of religious wars aimed at recapturing the Holy Land from Muslim control. These wars would last for centuries, influencing both European and Middle Eastern history. During this time, Gothic architecture flourished, with grand cathedrals like Notre Dame and Chartres being constructed. The medieval period also saw the founding of the first universities, reviving classical knowledge and encouraging new intellectual pursuits. Though it was an era often defined by conflict, famine, and disease, it also laid the foundations for the rebirth of culture and knowledge in the Renaissance. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, Renaissance architecture. The Renaissance, beginning in the 14th century, marked a rebirth of interest in the art, science, and philosophy of the classical world. Centered in Italy, the Renaissance was a period of incredible creativity and intellectual exploration. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael produced works that remain iconic today, blending art and science to explore human anatomy, emotion, and perspective. This period wasn't just about art. It was also a time of scientific discovery. Figures like Galileo Galilei, Nicholas Copernicus, and Johannes Kepler challenged the Church's teachings about the universe, proposing that the Earth revolved around the sun. The invention of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg in 1440 revolutionized the spread of knowledge. For the first time, books were mass-produced, allowing ideas to travel quickly across Europe. The Renaissance also saw a renewed interest in the human experience, as philosophers like Machiavelli and Erasmus explored politics, ethics, and human nature. This rebirth of learning and culture laid the foundation for the modern world, as the boundaries of art, science, and thought were pushed further than ever before. The Renaissance was not just a revival, it was the spark that ignited the transition to the modern era. The Age of Exploration. The 15th and 16th centuries marked the beginning of the Age of Exploration, as European powers sought new trade routes and territories. Figures like Christopher Columbus, Vasco da Gama, and Ferdinand Magellan embarked on dangerous voyages, driven by a desire to reach the riches of Asia. However, in 1492, Columbus stumbled upon the Americas, a discovery that would forever change the course of history. European explorers mapped new territories, established colonies, and opened up vast trade networks. The exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies between the Old World and the New, known as the Columbian Exchange, reshaped global economies. Potatoes, tomatoes, and maize from the Americas transformed European diets, while horses, cattle, and smallpox from Europe profoundly impacted Native American societies. The Age of Exploration also ushered in the rise of European empires, as nations like Spain and Portugal established colonies in the Americas, Africa, and Asia. These colonies provided raw materials that fueled the growth of European economies, but they also resulted in the exploitation and suffering of indigenous peoples. The age of exploration connected the world in unprecedented ways, paving the way for the globalized societies we live in today. The Enlightenment and Scientific Revolution. The 17th and 18th centuries were defined by the Enlightenment, a movement emphasizing reason, science, and individual rights. Thinkers like John Locke, Voltaire, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau questioned traditional authority, advocating for the rights of individuals and proposing new ideas about government, society, and human nature. These ideas laid the groundwork for modern democracy and civil liberties. At the same time, the scientific revolution was unfolding. Figures like Galileo Galilei, Isaac Newton, and Johannes Kepler made groundbreaking discoveries in physics, astronomy, and mathematics. Newton's laws of motion and gravity transformed the way humanity understood the physical world, while Galileo's observations of the planets challenged the Church's teachings on the universe. This era of scientific discovery was revolutionary not only for its advancements, but also for the methods used to achieve them. Experimentation, observation, and empirical evidence became the foundation of scientific inquiry. The Enlightenment and the scientific revolution didn't just transform science and politics, they altered the way people viewed their role in the world. Intellectuals believed that through reason and knowledge, humanity could improve itself and society. These ideas inspired political revolutions, most notably in America and France, where the principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity sparked major upheavals. This era marked the beginning of modern thought, laying the intellectual foundations for the world we live in today. The Industrial Revolution. Landscape. The Industrial Revolution, which began in the late 18th century in Britain, radically transformed society. It was an era of technological advancement and economic change, driven by inventions like the steam engine, power looms, and the spinning jenny. These machines revolutionized manufacturing, shifting production from small workshops to large factories. Mass production of goods became possible, and economies of scale brought prices down, making products more accessible to the general population. The steam engine not only powered factories, but also revolutionized transportation. Railways and steamships connected distant cities and countries, facilitating trade on an unprecedented scale. Goods could be transported quickly, and industries began to flourish in newly industrialized cities. Along with industrialization came urbanization. People moved from rural areas to cities in search of jobs, leading to overcrowded living conditions and harsh labor environments. Life in the industrial cities was difficult, with long working hours, unsafe conditions, and little regard for workers' rights. Despite these hardships, the Industrial Revolution sparked innovation and economic growth. It led to the rise of the middle class and eventually to labor movements, which fought for better wages, working conditions, and shorter hours. The technological advancements of the Industrial Revolution laid the foundation for the modern global economy, forever changing the way people lived and worked. The World Wars and the Modern Era. The 20th century was shaped by two devastating world wars that had a profound impact on global civilization. World War I, known as the Great War, lasted from 1914 to 1918 and saw unprecedented levels of destruction due to modern weaponry like machine guns, tanks, and chemical warfare. The Treaty of Versailles, which ended the war, imposed harsh penalties on Germany, setting the stage for World War II. World War II, fought between 1939 and 1945, was the deadliest conflict in human history. It involved nearly every major nation, with the Allies, led by the United States, the Soviet Union, and the United Kingdom, fighting against the Axis powers of Germany, Italy, and Japan. The war ended with the defeat of Nazi Germany and the dropping of atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan, introducing the world to the terrifying power of nuclear weapons. The aftermath of these wars reshaped global politics. The United Nations was established in 1945 to promote peace and prevent future conflicts, and the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union began, a tense standoff that lasted until the early 1990s. The World Wars also accelerated technological advancements, including radar, jet engines, and eventually space exploration, while also leading to the creation of international organizations aimed at fostering cooperation among nations. The Information Age and the Future. Today, we live in the Information Age, a time characterized by rapid advancements in technology, communication, and the flow of information. The rise of the internet, personal computers, and smartphones has revolutionized every aspect of life, from business and education to social interactions and entertainment. We are more connected than ever before, with information at our fingertips. The information age has also transformed the global economy. E-commerce, digital currencies, and online platforms have reshaped industries and changed how people work, often from anywhere in the world. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, and automation are at the forefront of technological innovation, promising to change the future of labor, healthcare, and education. However, these advancements also bring challenges, such as privacy concerns, data security, and the growing divide between those with access to technology and those without. As we look toward the future, issues like climate change, political polarization, and global inequality present major challenges. However, humanity's history shows its incredible ability to adapt, innovate, and overcome adversity. The choices we make today, particularly in how we harness technology and address these global challenges, will shape the future of human civilization. Will we use our knowledge to build a better world, or will we repeat the mistakes of the past? Only time will tell.